Hello, I'm Gary Quinn, and welcome to another episode of Ready, Set, Live. Reinvention. What does that word actually mean? Change, transformation, modify, or evolve. True self-reinvention happens from the inside out as you realign your life with your values, dreams, and priorities. My guest today is Rolanda Watts. She has been an expert at reinventing herself. She is an actress, producer, voiceover artist, motivational speaker, and radio talk show host. She is best known for her international, successful syndicated show, Rolanda. Don't go away. I'll be right back with Rolanda. Welcome to the show, Rolanda.
Listen, it is so good to see you, Gary. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
I know we go way back, and I'm so happy of all the success that you're doing, reinvention, moving to New York and being in this amazing play. I mean, the word reinvention, I mean, you have reinvented yourself from the beginning.
Mhm. Yeah, I believe that life should be gulped and not sipped. And I believe that God gives all of us so many different kinds of marvelous gifts. And I've always taken it upon myself to use those gifts wisely and to give them back as a gift to God. That's just my personal approach to it. But I also have an insatiable curiosity. And, my mother swears I had ADD. And the only reason I'm not on Ritalin is because of her good home training. But, just being the daughter of an artist and an educator, educators and artists, I believe in the arts and just writing and acting and using your voice and everything that you have as art. And so that's really what drives my life. The bottom line is, Gary, I'm a storyteller, and I just find very different mediums to tell really great stories that I hope move people and make a positive difference in people's lives.
Growing up, because you had these great, let's say, support system of your family, there must have been an incentive or an intent that little Rolanda said, I'm going to tell stories, or I'm going to do something bigger than my life. Was there that epiphany, or did you have some light bulb go off?
Well, what's really strange is I look back, I was going through a bunch of pictures when I went home recently to North Carolina, and I found a lot of pictures of me as a little girl behind a typewriter at 9, then later in college, and then in graduate school. So the typewriter telling stories and writing has always been a part of it. I was also a little girl who was speaking at 11 months in full sentences, and I would tell stories. And my father would say, here is a tape recorder. I was talking so much, he'd give me a tape recorder and tell me to go in my room, make up the voices, tell the story, give me the sound effects, and then come and play it for the family after dinner. And this became a little thing that I did. I look at my life today. I go in a little room, I make up funny voices, and I tell stories. So I think it's been something that has been in my life for a long time. I wrote my first sonnet at 16 and have always been fascinated by Langston Hughes and William Shakespeare and Chaucer. I love studying those types of folks who had great stories to tell and are part of our classics. But yeah, I just love to weave a good yarn, tell a good story. And I think that translates itself, whether it's stand-up comedy or it's writing Destiny Lingers or it's doing the Rolanda talk show or making my off-Broadway debut. It's all great storytelling that touches humanity, I hope.
And what was interesting, after you graduated from Columbia, you went back home to North Carolina and started to do news. What was that like? How did that sort of parlay into the newsroom?
Well, Gary, I'm going to tell you this. I studied theater arts and English at Spelman College. And I used Columbia. I got out of college a year early because I was determined to go to Broadway. I was going to go to New York. I wore a subway token around my neck from the age of 12. after I saw the Black version of Guys and Dolls on Broadway. And I said, that's what I want to do. I played Miss Adelaide in college. I was determined to go to Broadway. How am I going to get to Broadway where my parents leave me alone, be in school? So I applied to Columbia, not knowing it was the #1 journalism school, and really went to Columbia to really audition for Broadway. And I remember I told my father that, and he almost fell on the floor. But I went to one audition. It wrapped around the block. I said, no way, I'll be back when you know my name. And I fell in love with journalism. And that's what took the trajectory of me being an anchor woman, a news reporter, an investigative news reporter in New York City, Emmy nominated, ABC, NBC, and Inside Edition, and then going on to do my talk show. And I believe what made the Rolanda show stand out in the 90s is because of my journalistic background that really helped us ground great storytelling again. And then when the show was over, I said, hot diggity dog, here's my chance. I'm not late, I'm not anchored down by a contract. I'm free. I can make a change. I can reinvent myself. I'm going to be that actor I always dreamed of being. And I'm going to see what happens. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is I not even try, that I not even risk, that I not even take the dare, that I not live up to what God gave me a gift to do. And that was 25 years ago. And I've been a working actor in Hollywood and now New York City, having just made my off-Broadway debut. And I'm in commercials and voice act as well. So, sometimes I think we reinvent ourselves, to answer your question. Reinvention means survival and thriving to me. There are times where I had to reinvent myself because I had to. The market dried up, or people wanted something different, or, I didn't get that gig that didn't come through. How many pilots do we shoot, Gary, that don't get picked up? People don't know what we go through before things get on the air. And so there are also times when you find yourself stale and you're just bored with life. It's just not giving you the goodies anymore. And you've got to make a shift and make yourself happy. There is nothing worse than working at a job that you cannot stand, waking up every morning, going someplace you hate, you don't like the people, and people do it every day. I decided I didn't want to do that. And the risk of whatever that mystery future was a lot more exciting than staying in a place where I wasn't happy. So I think reinvention is a great life raft for many of us. And it certainly has been for me, and has made my life very adventurous and fun. And I'll have a lot of stories to tell at the end of the day.
and I also think, Ro, when a person knows that their time is finished in one genre, or they feel stale, as you said, it is a jump of faith to say, I must break ground, breaking energy and trust that I will be able to do this in this market. And even when the chips are down, I believe you have to believe in order to receive. And when you left the Rolanda show, was there a sense of saying, maybe I should, or maybe I shouldn't? Or was it just, what, I've got to fly?
Well, there were other circumstances around my decision to leave talk shows in the 90s. If you recall, talk shows in the 90s became like the Roman Colosseum and the lions. It was like horrible. There were chair throwings, and women were being disrespected, and particularly Black women. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't want to be part of that violent, disrespectful, people disrespected each other's stories. And going back to my reverence for stories, because at the end of the day, Gary, that's all we have is our stories. Cool. And the way that talk was going in the 90s, it was just spitting on stories, and there were murders. Look at the Jenny Jones murder. There was violence. Look at Geraldo getting his nose broken. Correct. The Jerry Springer era came out. And, no offense to any of these, my colleagues, that's what they do. I just chose not to do that. I just could not continue. We had one show where a guy did a pop thing on his girlfriend. I'm dating somebody else. And she said, well, I'm dating somebody else too. And he turned around and spit on her. And I stopped the show. And I just said, I cannot continue like this. And I said to the audience, we didn't have any money to give them back, but I'll buy you a pizza or something, but I can't do this. And they gave me a standing ovation. And I decided at that time, that's not the type of legacy that I want to leave. And at that time, like I said, women in particular, and particularly Black women, were being totally disrespected on television. And I refused to play part in that. Now, did I enjoy doing a talk show? Absolutely. Did we do great work? No question about it. We got kids out of gangs. We discussed AIDS and being gay at 15 when people didn't even have a word that they called it at that time. We dealt with a lot of really good issues and we did a great job. So, I had other things I could do. And I said, when the world calms down a little bit and people move from that type of talk, I can always come back. But in the meantime, there's so many other things to do. There's so many other ways to help people. I have a podcast, Rolanda on Demand, and just, doing all the other things that I do. But yeah, I enjoyed it and I still love it. But that was a time to walk away if you wanted to still keep your brand and your name. Back then, we didn't even talk brands. Cool. But I'm glad I walked away because I would have had a very different brand today.
What is the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome so far?
In
life?
Well, I think the biggest challenge I've had to overcome, well, I think it's just getting people to take you seriously, as a woman in very top dog businesses. And the dog was usually an alpha, a guy, I think being taken seriously in investigative news in New York City as a woman with a Southern accent, coming into the talk show arena when all of the big guys were already established. I came in as a mid-season replacement. And so I think the biggest struggle has been getting my space in these businesses where, quite honestly, I just kind of show up, and it's really showing out that keeps you there and being able to compete and for people to take you seriously. I think that, even in switching, being a reinventionist, as folks call me, when I went to Hollywood, I mean, did they take me seriously? Here I am, a talk show host, and I'm a journalist. What am I doing in Hollywood? Well, today you see talk show people, comedians doing talk shows. So why can't a talk show be a comedian? And everybody wants to put you in a box. And I think the biggest challenge has been proving that I can do well in any box I'm in, and that I don't have to be a one-trick pony, that I can use all of the talents that I have, and I can be a leader in those talents. I not only am a voice actor, for instance, I have a voice acting masterclass. I want others to come along and be educated. And I'm at an age now, Gary, where it's about sharing your knowledge. I've accomplished a lot, and there's so many people who are following in my footsteps that I want to help make their way just as well.
Absolutely. Who has inspired you or influenced you the most spiritually in this lifetime?
Oh my goodness. I was just thinking of Reverend Della Reese, who
I love Della. I met her many times.
I know. And she had me speak at her church.
I used to go to that church at the hotel.
The one church, right? And she said, I want your sermon to be that you are proof of the truth. That if you believe in yourself, that you can do many things in life and all of this. So the being proof of the truth, she asked me to abide by. So I'm always trying to use all of my gifts in a positive way so I can prove to other people that they, sometimes the things that we do give others the permission to do it as well. So I think that was one great inspiration. Of course, my parents have been tremendous inspiration. Even when they didn't believe in some of my dreams, they were like, okay, well, good luck, little girl. They at least didn't put a roadblock. But sometimes, even if they weren't 100% there, that gave me more inspiration to prove it, and most of the things in my life, Gary, have been from somebody somewhere telling me I could not do it. And my success in whatever that was this: watch me.
And that's funny.
Dr. Maya Angelou was a tremendous influence. My Auntie Maya, as I called her, was a close family friend for 35 years with my family. And she was a tremendous role model for me, very mother-like, to me. And there were lots of people that, you may not know their names, Dr. Virginia Newell and Aunt Flo and all of these folks who you don't know their names, but they were people in my community or teachers or an auntie or somebody who believed in me, who really believed. Because let me tell you, a little girl growing up in the 60s, I was quite a firecracker. And so I had a lot of energy. And that was back when girls and little Black girls from the South weren't supposed to be having big dreams like that. But I said, I want to be my ancestors' wildest dream and try to accomplish some things that weren't, this wasn't just the everyday things, the things that I was accomplishing at the times that I was. So now today, folks are everywhere. There's diversity everywhere. There are women everywhere. And but back in the day, we were trying to, we didn't even have the term glass ceiling back then.
I think your next book, or the book that you need to write now, is My Wildest Dreams.
Yeah, there've been some wild ones, and a lot of them have come true. So that's a good thing.
Well, that's the thing is, I believe, all of, kids and just people in general, it doesn't matter how old you are. It's about just having that trust and really being inspired that if we have life, we have purpose, and that our lessons in this lifetime are basically, let's say, experiencing all the pieces of the puzzle. That being said, who else inspired you as far as that you say, I would love to work with this person, or I would love my dream, let's say, situation of being opposite a certain actor, or you did a Broadway show, but what's next as far as that dream?
Can I just tell you that yesterday I went to a matinee and saw Lawrence Fishburne and got to meet him after American Buffalo. And I fanned out. I don't fan out a lot, but I was truly impressed. Mr. Lawrence Fishburne, I was like, gosh, what would it be like to work on stage with him? You think about people like that. Shonda Rhimes is just such a tremendous, tremendous force. You've got Lena Waithe. I mean, all of these folks who've come up and just really taken theater and just acting and storytelling, producing, writing, creating by storm. There are just so many people.
It's good though. It's funny. I met Lawrence at the Korean spa that I go to about 2 years ago. Or right after the COVID lockdown was open, and I used to run into him at the market, and I said, this time I'm going to go up to him and speak to him. So I spoke to him in this Korean spa that's got all these eucalyptus leaves. It was actually a steam eucalyptus steam. And I turned around and I said, Lawrence, you're just amazing. And I said, I just interviewed Esai Morales, who said, you were amazing. He loves you. You guys are friends. And so he was like, oh, great. And he talked about going to New York to do this play.
Yes. Well, what's crazy is when my friend actually knows him, and they know each other from that very same hot springs you're talking about. And he mentioned it yesterday. So keep going over there. But he's just so magnificent. You see actors like that. I was so blessed to get to work with Christopher Jackson, who played George Washington in Hamilton, who plays Chunk on Bull. And I play his mom. I mean, if you're going to play a mom, play Chunk's mom. He's a great guy. But just, there's so many wonderful actors. They're funny people I'd love to work with. Jamie Foxx, why not work with him? Or Matthew McConaughey, why not work with him?
George Clooney.
George Clooney, yeah.
Are you listening, George?
Right. Al Pacino. Oh, Al Pacino. Gosh.
What does the word love mean to you?
Love. Oh boy. Well, I tend to compartmentalize it since I don't have a boyfriend love thing. That's very complicated for me. But I think a love is it's, well, it means power. It's a powerful source for good. I mean, love just seems to cure everything, and it's a great motivator. And to be able to just not, I mean, love is just the solidifier for joy, I think, because if you love what you do, not just like it or
Well,
be
also, I
committed to it.
think the reason for many people's unhappiness is they're always looking outside themselves to feel validated. And I believe that unless we take that from the inner of self-love and loving ourselves, and it's not the egomaniac love, it's more about love is really all there is in this experience. And at the end of the day, you're going to remember, oh, I remember when we did this, or I remember, singing on that track, or I remember, writing that novel, or whatever it is. I believe love is an expression of just being authentic and being present.
I mean, and it's just joy. I mean, I heard the most wonderful thing today, and somebody was talking about the difference between being happy and having joy. That happiness is something that is triggered because it's a response to something, whereas joy is just what you are. It's just what you're being. And I think there's situations, there are people like you, Gary, that just give me such joy. And I just think about how happy I am to have you in my life, to be able to spend even this time with you, the fleeting times that we have. So over so many years, we always have it. Every time we're connected, it's a joyous occasion to me.
Exactly.
And I think that, that I think that's what life is about. It's about being happy, and it's about finding joy. And if you can do that, that is love. And, and just like you said, loving yourself. Now, one thing, I love me some me. Look, Gary, I love being with Rolanda. I love being with, I have a ball with myself, which means I will defend myself. I will stand up for myself. I'll heal myself. I'll soothe myself. I won't try to damage myself. So I think that that's a good thing to do. When you love yourself, you do walk in a different way, and all the outside fodder and feasting upon your soul doesn't affect you the way that it would for somebody who's seeking love outside of themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also, Ro, it's about really, and I love when you do your reinvention talks, or you have spoken to many, many people over the years, motivating them. I believe that as inspirators, or people who inspire others, it's really about just being in that flow, as you said, joy. And I love to remember opportunities where we had the joy. I remember walking the red carpet with you at the Paris Hilton event. We had such a good time. We're always laughing. And
Right.
I believe that's what it's all about.
And I think that happiness and joy attracts like energy. You and I can sit and talk about energy and all of that, but it's also just, the way you think, your positive thinking. You can look at people and tell pretty much what they're thinking about. And what they're thinking about themselves is a lot of behavior as well.
Correct.
So I think keeping the clutter out of your mind and being able to find joyous moments, that's gratitude, that's faith. And it's also taking risks. It's not easy to love and easy to be happy all the time. It's a choice, trust and believe. But when I work with my reinventionists in my reinvention retreat, I have people who are really dealing with fear of change, and I represent that change is good. But I always say, they're like, well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen if I do this? And my question is, what's going to happen if you don't?
Exactly.
I mean, what's going to happen if you don't? Because right here, how's that working for you?
Exactly.
So a lot of times you have to take that leap, and my faith is very, very strong.
And faith,
and this week, I try to do things to strengthen it. Affirmations, listening to Napoleon Hill and all of the motivators and Gary Quinn and the yes factor.
Yes. But what's so interesting, I was once teaching a seminar in Canada, and a woman came up to me after the seminar and she goes, "What's going to happen to me?" I said, "I don't know. What do you want to happen?" She'd totally given her power away. And I totally feel that when you walk in fear, you are fear-based, and that you are on pause in your life, and having the faith to believe and trust is really what it's all about in anything that you do. And you have to be excited about you. And that's the thing about, people like-minded people, like attracts like, is there's always an energy. It's a even on a Zoom, we're having this great energy as if we were in the same room, having a meal together. So I really feel that the soul is really about evolving. What does soul mean to you?
Oh God, when it's connected with food, it means everything. Soul food. You know, your soul is God, it's everything. It's the thing that inhabits the shell. It's the thing that will live forever when it's gone.
Correct.
It's the thing that will intermingle with other souls and become another one.
Exactly.
That's a very ethereal answer, but I do believe in the soul. I believe that the soul travels and stays. I know my father has been gone for 12 years and he's always with me, because his soul lives in me. His blood runs through my veins now.
Exactly.
And let me tell you, that gives me great strength. Before I go in a room for an audition or a big meeting or even a date, I pray that my ancestors, the souls of my ancestors, are there before I get there, setting up the room. I try not to do, even though I do many things alone, I am never really alone. Right. Because I trust in things that are far bigger than anybody. I don't know anybody I would have hold my hand in a meeting, but I know everybody up there that holds my soul in that meeting. So yeah, I think that's I don't know if that really answered your question, but yeah.
Well, I think listeners and viewers need to remember that we are here to learn that no matter where you are in your life, you have to be validation of giving yourself the permission to trust yourself, love yourself, forgive yourself, and really be all that you are, and that's what the word beautiful is. Be you to the fullest, really.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love that.
What is Rolanda's favorite cooking dish? I know we still talk about the fried chicken we haven't cooked together.
I was about to say, I cannot say the fried chicken again. It's like every time I say, my mother, back in the day when I was first doing interviews, my mother would be like, when they ask you your favorite food, do you have to say fried chicken? It's like, well, it is my favorite food. But gosh, I love my Italian friends would call me Rolanda Waziano because I love cooking Italian food, chicken parmesan. I can do a great bolognese, a great lasagna, vegetable or meat. And now that they've got this Beyond Beef, the lasagna you can make is just exquisite. But yeah, to be honest with you, I just don't cook as much as I used to, which is kind of sad. I've been trying to make this big move from LA to New York, so the kitchen is gone. I just haven't been entertaining, because of COVID. I haven't been cooking. So, maybe when spring comes and
here's another reinvention flash. I think you should do a cooking show in the kitchen with Rolanda.
Well, people have suggested that forever. And I have been, I do, if you go on my YouTube channel, I've got some good cooking little things over there. But yeah, I would have to be consistent with it.
Correct. Well, but doing a show, you'd be consistent. Every week you'd have to cook something.
I know. Craft, are you looking? I can 10 dishes with craft by Rolanda.
Answer these short questions. What does spirit of the soul once again mean to you? Like in few words.
Spirit of the soul, I think I'm just guessing, but when I say spirit of the soul, it makes me feel very good and very effervescent and lifted. So I would think that the spirit of my soul is to use my gifts for good, and to be a positive force for humanity. And whatever gift I have, whatever little drum God gave me, my little drummer boy story, will probably be that I told stories that changed hearts and changed laws and changed minds, and that change can be good in that way too.
What's your favorite thing to do on a Sunday morning?
Oh gosh, I meditate and I pray and make my gratitude list, and watch. I tune into Agape Live, Joel Osteen. My mother calls me a bedside Baptist, but my morning is about, I used to read the New York Times and go through, but honey, in my Sunday mornings right now is about spirituality and keeping my head together in a positive way. And I think any kind of reinforcement that you do to stay positive. I do a lot of even subconscious meditation. I listen to meditation and spiritual teachings at night when I'm asleep. There's just, I think that you've got 24 hours in a day. I don't believe Beyonce and people like that have the same 24 hours. I don't know how they do what they do, but the 24 hours that I have, I want them to be everything I can to batten up the hatches of being positive force. And, we're all human. So we all have work to do, as you call it, evolution. But, right now, a lot of us are trying to get our emotional intelligence together and trying to stay positive when the world is completely nuts, and not to absorb all of the negative energy that, in spite of it all, how can you walk as a positive force of nature here when all hell is breaking loose and people are losing faith here, losing a lot of things, including lives during this COVID thing. But how do you stay positive? How do you become divine leadership in the midst of the muck? There's a message in the mess, and you might be the one who carries it through. So hang in there.
Yes.
Stay positive. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for the time we've spent together. It's always a shot of inspiration to be with you. And people can catch you on your Instagram, Rolanda Watts. They can find out about your reinvention events coming up. Are they anything coming up, the reinvention?
Well, I have a club on Clubhouse called Reinvention Retreat. And this spring, we're going to start, we're going to start with the spring cleaning, and we're going to start with decluttering. And a guest that I have talks a lot about decluttering through meditation and decluttering our minds. That's going to help with our spring cleaning of our homes as well. Also, that's Rolanda on Demand. So look out for that. And also, I do a lot of reinvention stories on Rolanda on Demand on my podcast, but also Clubhouse as well. And then I've got the sitcom. We just got our second season of Partners in Rhyme. I'm about to fly back to California to shoot season 2. You can catch that on the All Black Network. And then Vivica Fox and I are going to be in a movie together this April 14th. It's called Due Season. It's a faith-based movie. I love faith-based movies, and I try to make that part of my whole catalog of art. So you can catch that. That's coming up on April 14th.
Excellent. Well, Thank you so much. I will see you back in LA. And I'm blessed to have the time with you today. And I want to thank you. I want to thank our audience. You can also reach me on Instagram at Gary H. Quinn, or Twitter. Until next time, join me for another edition of Ready, Set, Live. I'm Gary Quinn.